I mean, why do we even study literature anyway? Hey everyone, I heard from lots of folks in the comments section that you really wanted more writing instruction videos, so your wish is my command. Today I'm going to talk about how I teach theme. I usually use this introduction with my freshmen because once my juniors and seniors come to me, they have a pretty good handle on it, but my baby freshmen, they need some work on that. So today I'm going to share the lecture slides I use with my kids, which explain what theme is, what it is not, and you know I got some opinions about that, and we're going to practice with 2 examples, so let's do it. Here we go. When we're talking about theme, we're actually talking about why we even bother reading books and analyzing them in the first place. And that's because literature actually teaches us about what it means to be human. And we get to decide what that message is based on who we are and what we see in the text. And that's what's really interesting about theme. So when we analyze literature in class, I try to help my kids not get too freaked out about the weight of that. And I really just want to know, what did you see in here? What did you pull out of this work? The literature that we study is chosen because it's really rich and meaty. There's different kinds of books, of course, and sometimes we just read, a summer romance beach book or an action adventure book because it's fun. And it's like dessert to me, right? It's sugary, it tastes good, but it doesn't really nourish us. And the literature that we study in class is much more like a steak and potatoes dinner, right? Really nourishing. It's going to stay with us a long time. So I encourage my kids to have all kinds of different books in their reading diet. But when a book is weighty, it's deserving of deeper reflection. And that's where we get into theme. So what's cool is that great literature, the writers, those authors have something to say to us, but they're wise and know that just lecturing, putting out a pamphlet or recording a lecture isn't going to stay with us as much as storytelling does. So if we're told a great story and then we discover a theme for ourselves, that is much more meaningful to us and will stay with us so much longer. So theme, basically, I have my kids write down the information on this slide. It's an insight about human life that's revealed to us through that work, very rarely directly stated by the author. And in fact, there's lots of possible themes in great literature. The reason the classics have stuck around so long is that each new generation can find something fresh and applicable to them, even though times change. So when we're dealing with theme, I want my kids to ask themselves, what is the author's message to me? And then whatever the answer to that question is going to get them really close to the theme, which then, of course, will be part of their thesis statement in a literary analysis piece. Before we get into practicing this, I always remind my kids that there's a warning here for them that theme is not topic. Those are 2 different things. The writer might be writing on the topic of friendship or the topic of bravery, but the theme is, what is that author saying about bravery? I teach a lot of freshman classes, and often they arrive from middle school thinking that theme is just a one-word label, and that does not get the job done. So if they write, in a thesis statement, this story is about friendship, I'm like, nope, it's about so much more than that. What is the author saying about friendship? And then it's on our kids, and we're going to model this on the next 2 examples, to dig deep and find an interesting theme. I tell them all the time, if your theme sounds like something that I could get in a Hallmark greeting card, or that you read on a fortune cookie, or that is on one of those, those black bordered posters that you see in cubicle offices, then you're not digging deep enough. So an interesting theme for a paper that I would actually want to read needs to have some bite to it. It needs to have something that is fresh or interesting. We're going to avoid cliches here. And maybe we can even find something that maybe 2 reasonable people would disagree about. So the way to do this is to practice. So you want to find a common piece of text, film, literature, something that all your kids know. So my kids, of course, are Harry Potter fans, a lot of them. Even if the kids haven't read all the books, they certainly have seen at least one of the movies. And even if they haven't, everybody knows who Harry Potter is, who Ron and Hermione are. So I start with a full class brainstorm. After I've talked about my expectations, then I'm like, okay, I want you to think about the Harry Potter franchise. And on your notes, I want you to finish this sentence starter that I have right here at the bottom. The author's message to the reader is that what? And then I give the kids, 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes as they're scratching out their sentences. And then I ask for volunteers. And I do this early in the school year. So it takes a really brave freshman to put himself or herself out there for a full class discussion of theme. And I give them accolades for their bravery. So inevitably, a kid will raise his hand and he'll say, the author's message to the reader is that good triumphs over evil. And I always say, yes, that is definitely true. That is definitely nice. I believe that in my heart. It is also completely safe and boring and done. So I say it in nicer words than that, but basically I say that is such a bland, safe, vanilla theme that it's not a paper I really want to read. I know that. That's already proven to me. So let's dig a little deeper, shall we? So I have... I put it back out to the class. Who has another one? And then somebody might say something about, Harry relies on his friends, so we could come up with a theme that no man succeeds alone, or no person succeeds alone. And so I will say, okay, I like that. Sorry, you could hear the dog. Sorry about that. So nobody succeeds alone. That's a nice idea too. A little bit safe, a little bit cliched, and I'll push them a little deeper. And so theme is not about Harry Potter specifically. Theme is more about a universal truth. So we'll kick it around and maybe my kids will come up with something a little more interesting. And eventually we'll get down to this idea. And I'll be writing their ideas up on the board as we get there. But here's an option. The author's message to the reader is that to become a powerful leader, it is necessary to break some rules. Ooh, well, that's a little bit controversial, isn't it? Right? We're supposed to be rule followers. Isn't that what the good kids are? But you could make the case that in order to, reach that powerful leader level, you got to break some rules. So then we get that and we massage the wording and we get it nice and lean like this. And then I show them if they just drop that little crutch, that little starter, we now have a really interesting theme. So is that a paper I want to read? To become a powerful leader, it's necessary to break some rules? Oh yeah, I do. And so that would be an A-level theme that you would then use as your thesis statement. Point of clarification, if you're a middle school teacher and your kids are only developmentally at the level of coming up with vanilla safe themes like good will always triumph over evil, that's fine. Like if that's where they are, great. Then teach them that that's an acceptable theme and then have them support that with concrete details, evidence from the text. So I'm pretty much talking about the high school level. So don't worry. Like if you're like, my kids could never do that, they will when they're older. So middle school people, you do you. You just do your thing and it'll be great. Okay, back to the slides. Okay, let's try it again. This next one, our second example for today, is good old Shrek. So then I have them, put a line. Actually, I have them in their notes write down that Harry Potter one that I have right there. So they have a model of a really strong theme. And then we move on to the Shrek one. So once again, I start with the crutch, the starter. The author's message to the reader is that, and there will always be, a couple kids say, ogres are like onions. I'm like, yes, I know, but that would be a D- theme. First of all, the theme is not about ogres or Shrek in particular, and then it's such a cliche and it's super tired. Basically, I tell kids, if the first theme they think of in a work, they should throw out. Because it's probably a cliche and it's probably the exact same theme that everybody else or 90% of the kids in the room are also thinking of. And you want your theme to be a little stronger, a little more unique. So then I'll give them a little bit of time and they'll write down their themes. And I'll often get, a brave kid who raises her hand and she says, is that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Right? There's more than skin deep. There's a lot more going on under the surface. And I'm like, that is very nice. And it's also very safe. So I'll be like, okay, well, that was kind of average. Don't judge a book by its cover. It's certainly cliche. And I make them dig deeper. And we'll do this for several rounds in class until they break through that surface level of thinking and they go deep. And so this is the one that my freshman last year came up with. The author's message to the reader is that only those willing to face the ugliest parts of themselves are able to find true love. Ooh, like that's a requirement for you to reach that final stage of love. I want to read that paper. That's something a little fresh, something a little different. I have them slice off the crutch or the sentence starter. They write that one down in their notes as another strong example of theme. And then we are done with the introduction to theme. And then I'll use a short story. We'll start getting into like slightly longer works. And all along the way, through every short story in the fall semester, we pull out a theme and we kick it around. And oftentimes a kid will have a cool idea and we'll put the idea up on the board, but it's not worded perfectly. And then the other kids buff and polish and refine it until it's a really strong theme. I also regularly do that process and then have everyone in the class write their paper on that theme, because I know it's got legs. It's going to have enough material that they could support once they dig in for textual evidence, and it'll be successful. As always, I hope this was helpful. I had this idea that you could help me out with. I thought it would be really cool if in the comment section below, you came up with a different theme that we could use with Harry Potter or Shrek. And then that way, when other English teachers come find the party that we're having here, they could go through the comment section and they could pluck out themes that would work best for their kids in their grade level. How cool would that be? So if you're game, go ahead and think of a different theme, something totally different than what I came up with, and leave it below. That would be super awesome. If you're not into that, that's cool. I get it. You could just give this video a thumbs up, which helps other folks find it, or subscribe to the channel. Last week I crossed over to have more than 3,000 subscribers, which is just bananas to me. So I want to thank you if you're along on the journey with me. It really puts wind in my sails to keep making videos, and I really appreciate that. All right, I hope you're having a great week. Definitely comment below. That'd be awesome, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye everyone.